If you're moving to Toronto and looking to rent or buy a condo, this is the video you need. I'll break down which areas make sense depending on your lifestyle, how to avoid bad buildings, how your commute can affect your quality of life, and price expectations that you should have. I work as a realtor here in Toronto, and I've spent years helping people find the right place. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know how deep I go into the neighborhoods and streets of this city. So my goal today is to give you some of that insider knowledge. Whether you're brand new or already living here, this guide will help you. If you're from Toronto or ever lived here for some time, you know that Toronto is 2 hours away from Toronto. The city is massive and congested, and so is the condo market. Most of the city's condos are clustered in the downtown core, Humber Bay Shores, Midtown, Uptown, which is North York, and then small pockets here and there throughout Etobicoke and Scarborough. Every area offers something different, but depending on your lifestyle, not every area might be the right fit for you. So let's break it down by lifestyle. I'll tell you which neighborhoods tend to work best, whether you're here for your career, the nightlife, raising a family, or looking for an affordable way to get started in the city. Now, these areas aren't hard set. You don't have to follow them to the T, but this breakdown should help you figure out what areas might fit you the best. If you're after a social, fast-paced vibe with everything at your doorstep, then King West, Liberty Village, Ossington, and Church Wellesley are all areas worth taking a look at. You're close to bars, restaurants, parks, gyms, pretty much anything you could ever ask for is right at your doorstep. The trade-off? Higher prices, noise, tons of traffic, and some buildings that feel more like student dorms than housing. Some buildings in the area that are worth taking a look at are 75 Portland at King and Portland, The Well, right behind me at Front and Spadina, and Waterworks, which is a new development on Richmond between Portland and Augusta, and it's where the Waterworks food hall is if you've ever been there. I'd say the only thing you really need to look out for when living downtown is nearby event venues that could disturb your peace. Things like Stack Market or just general event spaces where there's noise throughout the nights. They have noise permits that allow them to go till 2, 3 a.m. with loud noise, and that'll keep you up at night. So I'd say that's the only thing you really have to look out for. Everything else is kind of as you expect it. You can't live in the downtown core and then complain about traffic, so just things like that. Then, if you're looking for a more peaceful day-to-day life and family-friendly areas, you should check out neighborhoods in Etobicoke like High Park, Junction, Parkdale, or areas in Midtown like Leaside or Summerhill, or East End neighborhoods that are right outside the downtown core like Corktown, Leslieville, and Riverside. These areas tend to be quieter, close to green space, close to schools, and just have more of a community-oriented feel to them. Some buildings in the area worth taking a look at are 1 Old Mill and 2 Old Mill by Bloor and the Kingsway, Scenic on Eglinton by Eglinton and Leslie. It's right next to Sunnybrook Park. Auberge on the Park is in the same area and is a brand new Dietterle building. Then for the East End, you have River City, where King and Queen meet at the DVP. There's multiple buildings there, but if you want concierge in your building, then I'd say go with 51 Trolley. There's also Showcase Lofts at Queen and Carlisle, which is the building right behind me. And then just 1 block over from that is the Printing Factory. Then if you want to keep costs down, or you're new to the city and looking to just get started on a budget, then places like North York, Scarborough, and Etobicoke in areas along the 427, Islington, Kipling, those kind of places are a great place to start. You'll definitely give up some convenience, but you'll find the essentials nearby. Some buildings in the area worth taking a look at are the Arc by Shepherd and Bayview at Bayview Mills. There's also Portrait Condos, which are just east of the Arc by about 3 blocks. Then there are some huge condo complexes that are options as well. You have Emerald City Condos, which is just across Fairview Mall. There's tons of buildings in there with lots of variety. Units range anywhere from $800 to $1,000 a square foot. And then another large complex is in Scarborough at Village Green Square. Those are a bunch of Dietterle buildings built across the years. It's at Kennedy and the 401, and they're very affordable. You can have prices from $700 to $800 a square foot on average. Then also, just a bit south by where the Eglinton LRT will start on Kennedy is Rainbow Village. It's an old group of buildings, but they're very affordable and very well managed. People only have good things to say about those buildings, so those are a great option as well. Now, if you're a nature lover or you just want views of green space, calmer surroundings, and the lake, then I'd recommend looking at areas like High Park, Harborfront, Humber Bay Shores, and Bayside Village. Then there's also areas around Midtown that are close to all the trails, like Mount Pleasant and Davisville, Summerhill, and Leaside. Some of the buildings in their area worth taking a look at are Eau de Soleil at Park Lawn and Lakeshore, which is where all those condos buildings are on Humber Bay Shores. Now, most of those aren't very good buildings, but Eau de Soleil and Waterscapes are two buildings there that are actually pretty nice and well done. Then you also have Bayside Village, which is the Tridel Hines community, where you have all the Aqua buildings. So Aqua Luna is the latest. You have Aqualina, Aquabella, and Aqua Vista as well. And then also all the condos that I mentioned in the family-friendly section are great options as well. They either all put you right on the water, so you're by the waterfront trail and close to beach access, or they put you close to parks and trails like Sunnybrook Park, Sherwood Park, the Dawn Trail, Bayview, Brickworks, and the Beltline Trail, all of which are part of Toronto's extensive trail network. So if you're in the Midtown area, you're going to be close to all that, so that's great as well. And just a quick note about all the lifestyles that I spoke about today and these areas. There's a lot of flexibility and play with these neighborhoods. So for example, if you love nature and want to be close to the lake and green space, or where I am now, Villiers Island, but you don't want to live right on Queens Quay because there's not that much close by on Queens Quay, there's not super good transit access, you have to rely on the bus, then you have a great option in Corktown or Distillery District because those put you close to Bayview Trail. You can still get to Villiers Island quickly, you're still close to the water, but you just have a little more of that downtown convenience and great transit access, great access to the DVP, which, if it matters to you, can save you 10 to 15 minutes whenever you have to commute somewhere. Next up, I'll walk through how transit access can really change your experience depending on where you live. And this is super important to me, and I find should be important to you as well, because nowadays, driving in the city just doesn't make sense. It's not feasible. And that's coming from a car guy who loves to drive, who loves cars, and if I had the choice, would drive anywhere all the time. But it doesn't make sense to sit in a car for 30 minutes when I can get there in a 5-minute bike or a 10-minute TTC ride. So nowadays, you really need to either be able to walk, bike, or transit to wherever you gotta go easily, or your quality of life can really suffer. Now, your day-to-day commute experience will depend heavily on where you live. Ideally, if you've got a commute and you wanna use the TTC, you wanna be on or close to Line 1 or Line 2. This will just make your life so much easier, especially when it comes to the winter time. If you're just a short streetcar or bus ride away, that works too. Some areas like Midtown are major hubs and will get an even bigger boost once the LRT finishes. Other areas like Leslieville and Riverside rely mostly on streetcars, which can be a bit slow, but the Ontario line will improve things in that area if you're around when it's finished. Humber Bay Shores, parts of North York, and Scarborough definitely have the worst commute when it comes to commuting downtown, and even just getting out of those areas can be tough, especially if you're not near a subway or the GO train. Those areas are just also not the most walkable or bikeable depending on where you are within the neighborhood. So when you're picking a place, don't just think about the building. Think about the things that you do on a daily basis and how it will affect your life. How long is it going to take for you to commute to work, to get to a gym, or to get to a grocery store, or even just to see friends and family? Struggling to get to those places on a daily basis or even just a regular basis can really affect your quality of life and sanity. So you definitely want to think about it when choosing a place. All right, now let's talk condo buildings, because not every building is a good place to live. Some look great online, some are brand new with a whole long list of brand new amenities and great views, and they look awesome from the outside, but on the inside, it's a whole different story. Now, I don't have time here to list every single bad building because, well, there's a lot of bad buildings in Toronto. But what I can do is tell you the signs of a bad building to look out for, and that should help you out. Plus, just working with a realtor like me, in general, who knows a lot, will know which buildings are bad and what to avoid. Now, the first red flag to look out for is Airbnb-heavy buildings. These buildings feel more like hotels or student dorms than homes. You can expect constant move-ins and move-outs, loud parties, and a general lack of respect of property and respect for you and everyone else that lives there. A notorious example is ICE condos. Then there's also a lot of places in City Place, which I'm sitting in now, that allow short-term rentals. I believe the current list in City Place that allows short-term rentals are 15 and 21 Iceboat Terrace, then 38 and 151 Dan Leckie Way, and then 10 Capitol Court. 151 Dan Leckie Way is the most notorious of them all. There's been a lot of incidents there that have made it in the news, including a few quite violent ones. So that's definitely a building you'd want to avoid. There are tons of buildings scattered throughout the city that allow short-term rentals. So just make sure when searching for a building, especially within the downtown core, that you ask management what their short-term policy is, or ask your realtor. Now, the second red flag that I'd say to look out for is poor management and maintenance issues. Even a well-designed building in an amazing location can be miserable to live in if management is unresponsive or just not good at doing their job. If you see consistently negative reviews online, visible neglect in the building, and a disorganized concierge, those are some signs that would point to a bad building. Now, if you want to get a feel for management or how a building is run, don't be afraid to ask concierge when you're at the building what's going on with the building. You can say things like, hey, I noticed the entry phone isn't working. How long has it been down? When is it coming back? Or you can ask about how long the elevators have been down, if they're down, and what's going on there. Or even just say, hey, I noticed in the mailroom there's a lot of package overflow. Is anything being done about that, or is it just how it is? Be nosy. You're allowed to when you plan on making a big move. Now, the third red flag to look out for is financial issues. Now, this mainly only applies to buyers. So if you're buying, I'd say make sure that you have a lawyer review the status certificate. Most will do it for free if you use them for closing, so it's no cost to you. But if you want to just have a lawyer review a status certificate and you don't end up using them to buy, it can run you a couple $100 usually. But what they'll do is they'll look at the status certificate, review the building's financials, including the reserve fund, and basically ensure that if anything were to ever happen, that the building would need major repairs or need to spend a lot of money, that you as an owner aren't on the hook when a special assessment comes and you have to pay thousands of dollars to fix these issues because the building didn't have enough funds. Now, if you're looking at a new build, they won't have any financial history, especially if they're not even a year old yet. So that's where you want to ensure that the developer and property management are reputable, and even if you can look at the condo's board of directors, ensure that they're a strong team of people. Now, my last point here isn't necessarily a red flag, but more so something to look out for. And that is that some of the best buildings aren't the flashiest. There are older condos that don't look like anything special from the outside, but they're rock solid with a strong community in them who cares about the building, strong management, and good amenities. They'll even have bigger and better layouts, and not to mention full-sized appliances, which are extremely rare in anything built post-2020 nowadays, I'd say, as people start cooking less and using their ovens as storage lockers. Now, about new builds, I'd say about 80%, if not more, of condos completed since 2021 are garbage. People see brand new and think high quality, which makes sense. You know, that's how we work with products. Brand new iPhone, brand new camera, brand new car. These are all high quality items most of the time. But it just doesn't apply for condo buildings in Toronto. In fact, it's actually quite the opposite. So when dealing with new builds, you want to look for a reputable name. Nowadays, that basically only means Dietterle. Menke's and Great Gulf are good as well, but you will find some build quality issues here and there, but nothing out of the ordinary. There's also a handful of small-scale developers who have done very small amount of projects in Toronto that are good as well, but with the current market, they just can't afford to build right now, so you won't really see any new buildings from them. And a great example of this to prove my point of developers cutting costs lately, especially since 2021, is Concord's latest development, Canada House. They started occupancy just a few months ago, and they've been suffering from numerous problems, including no AC during peak summer days, like when we had those crazy heat waves, people had no AC. They've also had massive flooding, and it's basically just an example of how desperate for money they were that they started occupancy way before the building was suitable for people to live in comfortably. So the main takeaway here is don't fall for looks alone. What really matters is how a building is run, who lives there, how well it's aged and is going to age, and that's something that I always help clients look into. So now that you know what to look out for in your search, the next question is, what's it going to cost you? So every Toronto condo is basically its own micro market, with prices varying depending on build quality, the age of the building, where it is, its list of amenities, and even who lives there. Two buildings right next to each other can have totally different values. So it can be tough for me to just throw out a rough price there for you. But I can say, as a general rough guide, newer buildings will be at $1,000 to $1,200 a square foot. And then older ones within the downtown core or just outside, around $800 to $900 a square foot. Most one beds are 500 to 600 square feet. Most two beds are 700 to 800 square feet. And then most three beds are, unfortunately, 800 square feet, but you can see some that are above 1,000 square feet and they get to 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 square feet. and then even bigger if it's a great building. So at $1,000 a square foot, you're looking respectively at $550,000, $750,000, and let's say $1 million for a 3-bed. Maintenance fees typically run from 80 cents to $1.10 a square foot in your average kind of decent building. High-end luxury buildings, as well as older, poorly managed buildings, will be much higher than that and even double that amount. Fees can vary depending on the build quality of the building, its age, any maintenance issues they've had in the past, the types of amenities they have, and just overall property management's competence. For rentals, the prices vary a lot. So I'm just going to give you a real-world example here so you can see the cost of buying versus renting, both upfront and over time, what it will cost you. The real-world example I'll give you will be my current listing that I have at 10 Eva Road, which is a relatively new Dietterle building at the Highway 427 and Bloor in Etobicoke. It is 2 beds, 2 baths, 775 square feet, and currently has a tenant in it that is moving out at the end of September, and so it's going up for sale and for lease at the same time. We're currently asking for $679,000, which is $876 a square foot. And for the lease, it's available for $2,750 a month. So let's sit down so I can break down the upfront cost for you and get into the numbers fully in depth. So if you're buying, the upfront cost would be around $65,000 with the minimum down payment, or around $157,000 with 20% down once you include land transfer tax, and legal fees. The monthly carrying cost with a minimum down payment comes out to around $4,785 a month. With the 20% down payment, then your monthly costs come down to around $4,240 a month. Both of those totals include your mortgage payments, maintenance fees, and property tax. So to put that into perspective, renting would be around $2,750 a month. So that would require around a $70,000 to $80,000 a year in household income. Owning would cost $4,240 to around $4,785 a month. That would require closer to $160,000 to $180,000 a year in household income. So while owning builds equity, as you can see, the monthly cost of ownership is much higher than rent right now. So if you're curious about how much equity you could earn, the current stats from 2019 to 2024, that 5-year period, is an average of 36% growth in Toronto as a whole. So for this specific unit, you could expect to sell it for around $925,000 using that math, which is a rough gain of $246,000 in equity. But let's look at a more conservative, realistic side given today's market. Let's use 15% as a growth example for 5 years of equity. That would have you selling at about $780,000, which would give you about $100,000 gain in equity. And also, here's something that many people don't know when they're renting or even buying. And that is that using a realtor doesn't cost you anything out of pocket. In Ontario, the landlord or seller pays the commission, which is then split between the listing agent and the buying agent, or if it's a rental, the listing agent and the tenant's representative. So as a buyer or tenant, you benefit from expert guidance from a realtor without any additional cost to you. So if you want someone who knows the city inside out, can negotiate on your behalf, and give you the inside track so that you don't overpay, remember, as a buyer or renter, my services and knowledge are free to you. Living to Toronto can be overwhelming, not just because of the size of the city, but because of how different every building and area can be. When moving, you're choosing your lifestyle, your neighbors, your commute, and even just how easy your day-to-day life can be. Whether you're buying or renting, treating each building address like its own market will help you out a lot. And what's true for one building may not be true for the one next door. Setting your priorities and outlining what they are and learning about yourself will definitely help you in your search. Are you looking for parks, or more specifically dog parks, or bike trails, running trails? Are you looking to have your kid go to the nearby school? Is that school full? Are you looking to have nice fresh produce nearby because you love to cook? Or are you looking for more a nearby restaurant scene because you love to order in? Or is just the ease of your commute the most important to you? Narrow all these down and it'll make your search a lot easier. And of course, if you want someone who knows the city extremely well and can help you find the gems while avoiding the money pits, then my contact info is down in the description below as always. I'll make sure that you're not just getting a condo in Toronto and checking you off the list, but I'll make sure that you're getting a condo in Toronto that is right for you and who you are as a person. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for part 2 of this video, which will cover houses specifically, but will be the same concept and idea. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.